Greetings everyone, my name is Dr. Jason Freeman. I'd like to welcome you all to my channel. So last week I made the case that Tariq Geiger of the Geiger comics is basically the perfect father. I talked about how he was a protector and a provider and how he was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for his kids. And so for this video I wanted to talk about an anti-Geiger figure, someone who's not a loving, protective, attentive father. And so when I was looking through comics, there are several, but one really stood out that most of y'all will recognize. And it saddens me to say that it is Mr. Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. Now, it saddens me to implicate Bruce Wayne as being a bad dad to his Bat kids. However, I think the evidence is pretty clear. Now, the reason I actually like Batman as a character is the fact that he's willing to stand up to gods and monsters even though he himself is just a mortal man. And so Batman really symbolizes the average man going up against insurmountable odds. We see this throughout history where you have just regular people facing armies, facing oppressive regimes, facing just basically natural phenomena they can't overcome, but somehow figuring out how they can overcome those things. I think about Dr. King with the Civil Rights Movement, the idea that you have these systems that have been in place for centuries, basically, Jim Crow and before that slavery, and he was able to work with others and overcome some of these laws to the point where I was able to go to integrated schools and eventually become a professor. But that's not what this video is about. It's about how Batman is a bad dad and how the Bat kids suffer tremendously for it. So let's just start with the idea of Batman as a protector and provider. This is actually where the first big failing of Batman is pretty clear, is that Batman is guilty of, over and over again with multiple kids, child endangerment. And so we see this tendency towards child endangerment for the first time in April 1940 in Detective Comics number 38, where the character Robin is first introduced. Now before I go any further, I do want to indicate that there are going to be some spoilers for this particular comic arc as well as some other ones related to Robin. And so if you don't want anything spoiled, any of the Batman stuff, and I do have to spoil some of it, you should click off the video now. You've been warned. And so Robin was introduced basically as a stand-in for kids who are really enjoying this Batman comic, basically imagining themselves as if they were helping Batman foil gangsters or others who were trying to essentially victimize those in Gotham City. And so from this first introduction of Robin, we get his origin story that we see repeated over and over again in movies and TV shows and things like that. Basically, he's part of this acrobat group called the Flying Graysons with his family. They run afoul of a gangster. In this case, it's a guy named Boss Zuko, who later became known as Tony Zuko. They run afoul of this gangster and basically he has them killed. He finds out what happens and then eventually he's adopted by Batman, Bruce Wayne, and over time becomes Robin. Now, of course, helping a young boy who has lost his parents to homicide, that is totally fine. And finding a way to focus his anger and rage in a positive direction is also commendable. But teaching that boy jujitsu and having him come and help you fight gangsters with guns, that's being a bad dad. And that's exactly what we see Batman do in this comic. He basically first sends Dick undercover to get some information on Zuko, and then once he gets that information, he goes in and they go and take out Zuko together. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't always turn out this well for Robin. So over the years, we've had Robins tortured, we've had Robins get killed. We also had a situation where Dick Grayson was sexually assaulted by both Mirage and Tarantula, two vigilantes. Now, one of the more famous examples of a Robin coming to a bad end was in the 1988-1989 Batman story arc, Batman: A Death in the Family. So at the beginning of Batman: A Death in the Family, the Robin at that time, Jason Todd, is mourning the death of his parents. And so he goes on and finds out that his mother, who has raised him, is not his biological mother. And so he goes on a journey to try to find his biological mother. He eventually finds his mother, Dr. Sheila Haywood, is a doctor working in Ethiopia during the famine, which was a thing at that time. I remember this when I was a kid. And so basically he finds his mother and basically reunites with her. But unfortunately, to his detriment, she has been blackmailed by the Joker, who also shows up and basically beats him nearly to death. But Jason Todd, being Robin, being trained by Batman, actually does survive that attack to save his mother, only for both of them to die in an explosion from a time bomb that's left by the Joker, because it's a Joker. And so this really illustrates the problem of Batman, in that he put Jason Todd in this lifestyle. He puts him in this situation, but ultimately it ends up in his death. Which brings me to my other big criticism of Batman, is that he doesn't have to do any of this. He's a billionaire. Just for example, in contrast with Geiger, when Geiger is about to face off with the King of Las Vegas, he doesn't dress up Henry and Haley as little Geigers to go fight alongside him. He takes them to Mexico, puts them in a safe place, and then goes off to fight them himself. He doesn't put the people he loves in harm's way, which is something that we see Batman do over and over again, even though, as I mentioned, he has the means, so he doesn't really have to. Also, just to belabor this point a little bit more, let's look at Damian Wayne in particular. So Damian Wayne was essentially created to be an assassin, to go in and to be kind of the opposite of Batman. So Batman doesn't kill, Damian absolutely does. And so once Damian is firmly into Bruce's life, he has a choice. He could dress up Damian like Robin, take him off into the world to go fight the Penguin or Killer Croc or Clayface. Or he'd do what most parents would do, which is to go and try to get his kids some help. Maybe get some professional help, take them to a facility, maybe get them on some meds that kind of curtails some of this violent behavior, maybe get them a good therapist, basically protecting the kid as well as the public from those violent tendencies. And so why does he do it? Well, that brings me to my third big criticism of Bruce Wayne's, aka Batman's, parenting style, which is that he really very much sees his kids as a means to an end. And so from the moment in which he watches his parents being murdered by Joe Chill right in front of him, Batman has one mission in life, and that is to avenge his parents' death by any means necessary. And so to do that, he needs people to help him. So of course you have Alfred, his butler, who helps him, but also he recruits those who are most vulnerable, who are most impressionable, to kind of come in to help him out as well. And we see this over and over again with child soldiers or children who are recruited into paramilitary groups or the terrorist groups, basically because they want to basically impress an adult or to get praise from an adult. They're willing to do things that maybe they know on some level is just wrong, but they want to do it because they were told to, or they want to, again, appeal to an authority figure. And so in this case, Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, is the authority figure. He's the billionaire. He's the one who has saved them from the streets. And so instead of putting them in a place to make them safer, he's basically making them weapons that he can use to send out there and to do his bidding. Now we see this illustrated very clearly in Frank Miller and Jim Lee's all-star Batman and Robin: The Boy Wonder, which I understand is not canon. But in this comic, basically we see Batman literally kidnap Dick Grayson and make him into his child soldier, Robin. And so throughout this comic, we see him being taken, literally taken after his parents' death, brought to the Batcave, shown all this stuff, made into this weapon that basically Batman turns on foe and ally alike. Most iconically, we see Batman and Robin dressed in yellow and take out the Green Lantern. I hope you're enjoying the video, but I just wanted to quickly mention that if you're enjoying what you're seeing from the DCU or DC Comics in general, why not buy a Funko Pop of your favorite DC character? I have a few myself and will definitely be getting more. To get your own Funko Pop DC character, click on the link in the description. And so the last thing I want to say about Batman being a bad dad to the Bat kids, and this is probably the hardest part to make in this video, is the fact that we actually do see Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, be abusive towards his kids. And so if you look at Batman and what he's done with his own wards and protégés, we see a very similar pattern. He trains Jason Todd, gets him killed in the comic I mentioned earlier, and then when Todd comes back, He eventually becomes this trained assassin, the Red Hood, that goes around killing villains in Gotham City. Cassandra Cain, who at one point was Batgirl, who also is one of the essentially children of Batman, becomes the head of the League of Assassins and goes around again killing people as well. And then there's Damian Wayne. And what can I say about him other than don't turn your back on him? Yeah, just check out the 2009 to 2011 Batman and Robin comic run where Dick Grayson is Batman and Damian Wayne is Robin to see what I mean. But going back to Bruce Wayne's violent tendencies or abusive tendencies as a dad, we see that on full display in Dawn of DC, Batman number 138. So at the very beginning of the comic, we see a resurrected Jason Todd basically talking with Batman at the time, and Batman reveals that he's went in and changed Jason Todd's biology so that whenever Jason Todd's adrenaline spiked, he would feel fear. Now he did this because he didn't want Jason Todd to go out and keep killing people, which he was, but at the same time, it's one of those things where you can have questionable ethics. You know, can you go in and forcibly change somebody's biology like that? Also, why was Jason Todd in his lifestyle to begin with? It was because when Jason Todd was caught, doing criminality on the streets of Gotham, instead of being sent to a place to reform him, he made him into a Robin and took him out to fight crime. In this comic, we also see Damian Wayne, Tim Drake, and Dick Grayson fight each other, all kids that were trained in an impressionable age by Batman. And then we see Batman very specifically wailing on Dick Grayson and Damian, and also getting a drop on Dick Grayson and Tim Drake. All this because Batman, unlike Geiger, instead of sacrificing himself for the best interest of his kids, basically sacrifices his kids' childhood and lives. And I'm talking about Stephanie Brown, Cassandra Cain, Tim Drake, Jason Todd, Damian Wayne, Dick Grayson, all for his own crusade to try to take out all the criminality in Gotham one punch and one kick at a time. Now, if you found this video interesting and or informative, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please share this video. And if you have more evidence of Batman being a bad dad, or if you totally disagree with me and have some counterpoints, please leave those in the comment section below. Thank you all for your time and have a wonderful rest of your day.